right. What's going on, Austin? What's going on? Appreciate you for joining the chat today. We're gonna let a few more people get in here before we get started. Got my guest in here today. I'm super excited about this episode. Should be pretty good. Do me a favor when you get in, let me know where you're checking in from. Just put it in the chat. Austin, where you checking in from? Marcus. What's going on, Marcus? Appreciate you for joining the chat. We're gonna let a few more people get in here before we get started. We got 9 people in the building right now. Do me a favor, hit that like button for me as you come in. I really would appreciate it. That definitely helps the content get out to more people. All right. We got 12 in here. All right. Blue Collar Gym. What's going on? Appreciate you for joining. He checking in from Charleston, South Carolina. We got South Carolina in the building. Big Rome, what's going on? Port St. Lucie, Florida. Appreciate you for checking in. We got Mike G in the building. What's going on, Mike? Food Service United. You already know. We got Denver in the building. Shout out to Denver. All right, guys. So I appreciate y'all for joining me today. We're going to go ahead and switch over, get my guest in here. Mike G says, I broke down yesterday and 4 hours behind. Ooh, that's rough, man. I hope you got that. I hope you got that pay. Hope you still getting paid. I guess you had a long day yesterday. You know, those type of situations happen in food service, unfortunately. Let me switch over. All right, guys. So today, man, I got a very special guest with me, and he's a former truck driver who transitioned into a full-time investor slash entrepreneur. So I wanted to bring him on to, tell his story and kind of share with us how he made that transition, why he made that transition, and just give us a little bit of, insight on where he is right now in that journey. All right. So without further ado, man, let me go and bring my guest up. Mr. Robert, how you doing, man? Before
Hello.
we get, I'm doing pretty good. Before we get into the real details, just give us a brief description. Let us know who you are, and then also I want you to touch on the trucking aspect first and foremost, and then kind of go from there.
Absolutely. Hey, everybody. My name's Robert. I have not had a W-2 job in the last 7 years. The last job I actually had, I was working for Cisco, pulling doubles at night, running the shuttles, and um, and kind of off and on my whole life, I've had some type of entrepreneurial spirit. Wanted to do investing, getting into passive income, financial independence, and freedom. Um, and the longest job that I had was back in my early 30s. I worked for the cable company for 7 years. And I'll never forget when I got fired, I hugged the lady, kissed her on the cheek, and said thank you as I went out the door. So, those of you all that can stay the 20, 30, 40 years, get your pension, collect your 401k, I am envious of you all because I've never been able to keep my mouth shut that long. So, my hat's off to you all with that and everything.
There you go. I appreciate that. All right, so you work for Cisco on the shuttle driving aspect, so you really wasn't doing what I'm doing now as far as making the
Correct.
deliveries, the hands-on type of work. You went the easier route and did the drop and hook.
Yes, yes, absolutely. There was I had gotten my CDL probably about 1990, somewhere in there, 95. I was working for a company and we did underground work for Gulf Power. So I was, pulling big trailers with backhoes on them, dump trucks, and things of that nature. And so that's how I got it. And my mentality has always been is anything that I can do to improve myself and make myself more lucrative or valuable to somebody, then that's what I need to do. I'm not a scholastic type of guy. I'm not the one that wants to go get the master's or the doctorate degree or anything. I have a hard time concentrating and doing all that kind of stuff. My way of learning is more hands on with you explaining instead of reading out of a book, so to speak. Um, so it was more in a sense that I got it for that, and I really didn't use it for 10 or 15 years, but I kept it active. All right. And
Mm-hmm.
so then I went to work for another company, and this gentleman, he looked at my license and he said, "Man, you can go drive a tractor trailer." And I was like, "What?" And he said, "Yeah." He said, "You got a Class A with no restrictions." I didn't have any endorsements at the time or anything. And, that company I was working for, they paid, I think, $12 an hour and everything. And I was like, I got to go because I'm starving doing this and everything. And sure enough, I was able to get hired on with Cisco. And a buddy of mine that's worked for them for 35 or 40 years, when I said, "Hey, I want to do what you do," because he does what you do and he's making six figures a year. He was like, "Robbo, it's a tough way to make a living, man. You do not want to do this. You don't want to make deliveries." And so I was like, okay. And at the time, I think Cisco was paying like 25 an hour. And so I think I was with them for like 3 years. And I think it was like 62, 68. And then I think my last year with them was 73,000. Um, Here's what I want to say to everybody that's watching this. And if you don't have a CDL, this by far is probably the easiest and quickest and cheapest life hack building financial independence that you can do in your life, is to go get that. Because generally speaking, I hear anybody paying from about 3 to 10,000 to go to one of those 6 week schools to be able to get it. They're going to push you out the door. You got that license, and then you go to work. Now you're going to have to pay some dues for a year or two, and also have a good safe driving record. But once you do that, the sky's the limit, because most of the places, from what I remember, are like starting you out at like 20 cents or 28 cents or 33 cents, per mile if you're driving over the road. Now, if you can get a local gig, driving a dump truck or, making food deliveries and everything like that, the sky's the limit. And I'm sure, you get the opportunity of overtime every day or every week. It's there. That's something that I did from my early or late teens and early 20s. Anytime there was holidays or overtime or whatever I could do to keep on making more money, that's what I was doing. And that's a sacrifice that most people won't do, and you and I have talked about that in the past. But that's crucial for somebody to start making it, in my opinion.
Mhm. Yeah, 100%. And to your point, I'm glad you brought that up. For anybody that's interested in getting a CDL, or want to make six figures in a relatively short period of time, um, or between 70,000 to six figures, definitely something like food service, fuel hauling, all of these type of jobs, you can definitely make that type of money with a CDL. And
Absolutely.
it's a low barrier to entry, right? Like you just
Sure.
mentioned. I went to CDL trucking school, 3 week course. I paid out of pocket. It was about $7,000. Depending on where you go, the cost will vary. There are some that are less than that. They also have programs like the WIOA program, Workforce uh, Opportunity Act, Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act. You guys can Google that. They give you assistance, which is a grant that you could basically put towards CDL school. So you really don't have to pay out of pocket at all. So just do your due diligence, do your research on that. If you don't necessarily have the money to come out of pocket, there are other options you can take to get funding for that. There also are mega carriers that will pay your tuition to go to school, but you may have to sign a contract to work for them for maybe a year or two, depending on the company. So definitely exhaust all your resources and take advantage of those when you can. But again, like Robert said, you definitely can make six figures in the trucking industry as a local truck driver, and you don't have to, have all that debt accumulated like you would have if you were going for a degree. Now, I'm not knocking anybody that want to go to college to get a college degree. I think that's amazing, and I also think that there are obviously some professions out there where a college degree is needed, right? So, like medical field, for example, if you're going to be a doctor, you need a college degree, right? If you're going to be a lawyer, you need a degree. So it's certain things out there where a degree is warranted and is justifiable. But if you want to get into something that doesn't require a lot of money up front, and you'll definitely make that 10 times over getting a CDL, I think it's a good option for somebody that's interested in that. So I appreciate you bringing that up, Robert.
Absolutely. It's a life changing experience to be able to have that and know that, hey, everything can go to crap. I can lose everything and whatnot. But guess what? I've still got something that I can go to work and start out at 70,000 a year.
Hmm.
There's not a lot of things that you can do. And to piggyback on what you said about getting that degree, for the love of God, make sure whatever degree you're going to get, that the starting pay for that profession justifies getting that much debt. Those two professions you talked about are high leverage professions as far as being a doctor or being an attorney. Somebody might go and spend 120,000 to become an English teacher here in Escambia County, and they don't start out at even 40,000. And so now it's a vow of poverty that they've taken, and it's unfortunate because the teacher is a very important person in our life. But then the thing is that the cost of the education doesn't justify what you're going to get paid, and now you're in a situation where you're never going to get out of that cycle right there. And just as you talked about, truck driver go to 100,000. Well, what's the first thing that all of us want to do as soon as we start making more money?
Spit
We
more.
want to spend it. We get that lifestyle creep. Now we need an upgrade to my clothes. Now I need a Rolex. Now I need a new car. Now I need something newer. And unfortunately, that's how this country has been built, is on debt and consumerism and credit. And what they don't want us to know is that regardless of who you are and where you come from, financial independence and financial wealth is highly obtainable. It's just going to require some footwork, and it's going to suck for the first 5 to 7 years. It will. That's all there is to it. But you got to do that. You got to put in that time and get past it. And now we got some momentum going, just like, compound interest. Okay. Well, once we get that momentum going and everything, then it just takes off exponentially. And before you know it, that money's just rolling and everything. And it's a wonderful situation to be in where, you want a bag of pistachios, you never look at the price. You want beef jerky, you never look at the price. Doesn't matter the steak's 80, 100, $200. That's the steak I want. That's what I'm ordering. And the thing about it is that it's not so important to have the money. It's the habits that we have to put into practice to be able to get to the point of having that. Because as well as I do, there's so many people that have hit windfalls, whether it's a lottery or they signed a big sports contract or, they signed a record deal, and now they're broke.
Hmm.
Okay. Because they couldn't handle $50 to start with, and you're not going to be able to handle 50,000 just because you got more money. Okay.
Hmm.
And so the thing is that we have to learn those habits of no, no,
Right.
do not go and spend that money. And then we start banking it. And then just as you and I were talking about having money in a high yield savings account just for holding in case something happens or comes up, a good deal and everything, you know, unfortunately, people don't do that. And so
Hmm.
they're constantly in a position where they're paycheck to paycheck, and the radiator on the car goes out, or your kid falls and busts a couple teeth, and there's 3, 4, 5,000 at the dentist, and now they're in a financial turmoil that they'll never be able to get out of. And and it's amazing how many people that are in a six-figure profession that get paid that are in a situation that an unexpected expense of 5 grand or more, they'll never recover from it because they don't have those good financial habits.
100%. Yeah, I definitely agree with everything you just stated. And, two very practical ways to have more money is number one, increase your income, and number two, decrease your expenses, right? Like those two things right there, if you can do those, you'll automatically see some income coming in, right? You'll see yourself saving money. Um, Also, you mentioned something else about the habits. It doesn't really matter how much money you earn or how much money you can amass if you don't develop those habits, those disciplines, uh, to save money, to invest money, you're going to find yourself in the same situation. It really doesn't matter. I read a statistic recently where over 60,000 Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. Over 40% of Americans are making $100,000 or more and living paycheck to paycheck. So those numbers alone will is an indication that it doesn't matter how much money you're making if you still don't have those disciplines in place when you obtain that type of money, right? So it's very important to adopt the disciplines, to have a good philosophy surrounding financial or your finances, read books, use resources like YouTube to educate yourself on different ways to not only have more discipline surrounding your money, but also how to grow your wealth, right? A lot of people are afraid of investing, right? There's a scarcity mindset there when it comes to investing, particularly when you talk about things like, the stock market. A lot of people feel like that's a scam, and it's just not being educated on what the stock market is all about. Same thing with what you do, real estate investing. Again, I just feel like once you get the information, you have to then take action on what you've learned. Just the information alone is not going to do anything. It's useful, right? If you don't take action, if you don't apply what you learn. So, once you guys do get the information and you learn about different ways to create wealth, whether it's a side hobby, uh, whether it's another type of hustle that you come across, you have to be willing to put in the work. You got to put forth action and understand that nothing is going to fall in your lap. But if you stay consistent, apply the knowledge that you've learned, you can be successful. And that's with anything. But Robert, go ahead, Robert.
I was just going to say I totally agree, and I would like all of the viewers to understand is that I saw Anthony first on Facebook, and I saw a lot of things that he posted and everything, and I said, man, I got to get to know this person better. And so we went to lunch. I invited him to lunch and everything. And when it came time for dessert, Anthony said, no, I ate mine. I assure you of that. Now, and the reason I bring this up is that Anthony's much more disciplined with his physical regiment that he has in his life than me. I just walk a mile and a half a day and that's it. Okay. That's all I'm looking for. He does a whole lot more and he gets a lot better results from that. And that's the same thing with having to do with building wealth or anything. And that is that discipline is non-negotiable and keeping that focus as far as, hey, I'm going to count these calories. I'm not doing this. I'm not, eating sweets. I'm not drinking soft drinks, whatever that is. Okay. And that right there is absolutely crucial. And like with me, I don't do that much having to do on the physical side of my life. I'm more where my discipline shines at is having to do with my money management skills and with the real estate and everything, and you bring it full circle as far as in all areas of your life, and that's something that I can learn from and something that I can put into my life and start executing as well because the trucking industry is very forgiving with people and I'm not trying to take anything away because we all know that, you can't be a complete idiot and drive a truck for any length of time and stay in that driver's seat. Okay. You got to have some wits about you and everything like that. But it's not like you're going to have an IQ of 130 to be able to get into the industry. Okay. And you can start making some of that money and don't get involved in the lifestyle creep and the automatic of, upgrading and getting new cars. And I saw it all the time with the guys where, we go back to the yard and the drivers and everything. Everybody was driving, new 300 Chryslers, brand new King Ranch diesel, $100,000 truck. And, so-and-so's getting a $400,000 house built and everything like that. And it's like their bills are right here. Their money is right here. There's no room for anything to happen. There's no room for anything to go wrong. There's no cushion, And some of them look at it and say, well, I got 20 grand in the 401k. I'll just pull that money out and everything. I get it. But the problem is that if you're making that kind of money and you only got 20 grand in the 401k, one, you need to look at that, in my opinion. And then the second thing is that as long as that 401k is going to be your fallback, okay, you're not going to have it when you need it when you want to retire because it's always going to be the option to be able to go to that. And unfortunately, that comes in with that discipline is that, hey, that money's non-negotiable. Unless I'm paying for chemo treatments for somebody and it's going to be life-sustaining, no, we don't use that money here. We got to have some money over here for, those incidentals, like, the tires blow out on the car, or, something of that nature. But so many people don't think like that. And that's where the unfortunate starts to occur. And that's where people start getting in trouble.
Mhm. Yeah, 100%. I totally agree with that. And you call it the lifestyle creep. I call it the lifestyle tax, which basically they mean the same thing. It's just when you start to increase your income, when you start to make more money, you have to have that discipline. You have to have that mindset. If your goal is one day financial independence or financial freedom, you have to be able to abstain from the temptation that comes along with making more money, buying the boats, buying the expensive cars, buying the designer clothes, the designer bags, all of these things just to impress people that are probably not even really paying attention to you,
Sure.
right? And I've been able to really do a good job of that. I think over the last year, I've really, had the delayed gratification mindset to where I'm like, let me hold off on that. I don't need to purchase that right now. Even though I have the finance to do so, I know I'm trying to get long term. So I have that discipline that I've just been developing over time, and I'm seeing it in my bank account as well. And I think once you get to and another thing that helped me to do that was, some of the books I read, right? I know you commented on certain things that you've seen me post. Me and you got, some of the same books in common that we have in our library. And I think those things have definitely helped me uh, have the philosophy that I have surrounding money, different podcasts out there that have been very helpful as well. And, just some of the people that I listen to that have really poured into me and really helped change my mindset when it comes to not only money, relationships, and other aspects of my life, right? I've really grown in those areas. And that's what I think that other people should seek out, regardless of what you're trying to do, whatever that is, whether you're trying to get better at your finances, whether you're trying to get better at relationships, whatever if you're trying to start a business, you got to seek out counsel for those particular things. And one thing that you do is you offer, I don't know if you offer mentorship, but I know you always put out there where, look, you can call me, you can, a 15-minute call. I'll help you with anything you want to, know about when it comes to real estate. You can ask me any kind of questions that you want to ask me. And you always just trying to add value to others in that way. And there are a lot of people who aren't necessarily, trying to scam you. You just really got to vet the person out and make sure that you are talking to somebody that knows what they're talking about and they aren't trying to get over on you. In this day and age in social media, there are a lot of people who are out to target people who really don't have the education. So you hear somebody that may be able to, you know, articulate themselves well enough to what to where you don't really understand what they're talking about. They sound good, they talk a good game, and you go for it, and then you come to find out you're getting scammed. So I definitely think if you do plan on, purchasing a course to help you out in a certain thing, make sure you vet the person out to make sure it's legitimate and to make sure the person who is selling whatever they're selling, that they have some references, they have people who they've actually have helped before you just spend your money on those type of uh, things. Do you
No,
agree with that, Robert?
I totally agree. And yes, I do professionally mentor people. And I make that offer about having to do with the phone call and everything because, I do want everybody to do better. Okay. And a lot of the turmoil in everyday life, so much of it is caused because of bad financial habits. Okay. And unfortunately, people will sit there, and the most quoted, misquoted scripture in the Bible is the love of money is the root of all evil, and people get that always messed up and everything. And it's not so much as the money that makes the difference, it's the freedom that comes with having it, because if you can pay a house cleaner, then you and your wife can go out. You don't have to clean the house any longer. You get to buy back your time. Okay. And eventually it gets to a point where all of your monthly bills will be met from your investments and everything. And now you have what we call financial independence. You don't have to work anymore. And then you get to the point of where you're financially free and you just basically go and do what you want. And so the 15 minutes, I'll do that with anybody, And as far as the mentorship course and everything, it's 12 weeks long. And the reason that I do charge for that, Anthony, is because I have found myself when I don't, I'm more interested in somebody being successful than that person is. And I put, usually, and we'll have, a phone call every week. And normally I got 3 to 5 hours preparation going into that phone call. So it's a time consuming process for me to do that. Um, and I totally agree. I had a buddy of mine that had been married 7 times, and he said, "Man, I can tell you all about marriage." I said, "No, you can't, Mike. You can tell me about getting divorced. You're an expert at being divorced, okay? You're not an expert at staying married." I said, "I'll go talk to my parents. They were married 47 years when my father died, okay? So they know what it takes, all right? Don't ever go and ask somebody that's broke about advice having to do with money. That's one of the worst things. And there are people with pictures of Lambos, jets, and all that kind of stuff and everything. And I talk with a tremendous amount of people that are very well off, and very few of them own their own plane. And I think I only know 3 or 4 people that actually have some type of exotic or supercar, whatever you want to call it. But the rest of them are, pretty much just plain Jane driving the average vehicle and everything. And, they just happen to have high net worth in the sense that they didn't get all involved with the lifestyle creep. What they did was is they got with the investment, catapult happening. And so, but every now and then they'll do something like, now when they go on a cruise, they get the room with the balcony that's 12 grand and, do the upgrades and everything like that. But it's not like they're going buck wild and got a Rolex for every day of the week and, the $800 shoes and all that kind of stuff. So, and I'm not opposed to that. If that's what makes you happy, then great. I'm glad that, that person's got to that point and everything. Um, and it's real easy to look like a genius on social media, and so, and I have it in my industry, people, "Oh, I got, 1,000 doors." And I'm like, "How many of these do you actually own yourself?"
Right.
"Oh, well, I'm in partnerships, I'm in syndications and everything." And so then it becomes that I actually own 8% of 1,000 doors. And it's like, "Oh, okay, here we go now," and everything. So, I pay close attention to the way that people talk. And if they talk in what I call absolutes and they're very forthcoming, then it's like, people ask me, "Well, how many doors do you have?" And I'll tell them, and I said, and then they're like, "Well, I can't believe you got that many properties." I don't. Okay. Because some of them are quadplex, some of them are duplex and everything. And so I look at it by doors because each door cash flows. And so that's how I look at my properties. But I'm very forthcoming with that because I don't want anybody to come back and say, "Hey, you said you had, 35 properties, but you only got 24, you know?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And it's the way that we talk because thoughts in mind manifest in time, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I want to be as truthful as possible and as transparent as possible with the way that I conduct my business and everything. And I think, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but I don't care what you think about me.
Mm-hmm.
I got to live with myself and with the good Lord when I make it to, on judgment day. And that's where, my answers have to be, accounted for and everything. And
Right.
so I want to make sure that, I've been doing what I'm supposed to and everything. So it, and tying it back with, I can't say enough as far as getting into a lucrative paying profession. And if you're not going to start a business yourself, I don't know of another one that you can get into as quickly as truck driving. I
Mm-hmm.
just have not found it yet. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And, with some practice and everything, I think that it's virtually, there's probably only, 10% of this country that might not be able to drive a truck as far as, just grasp it and, being able to, back up underneath the trailers and, put the jacks down, check your kingpin, all that kind of stuff and everything. But the thing is that the rest of us can, but we might not make that choice because out of fear or it's such a big truck. And man, I've seen some tiny women, shorter than
Oh.
4 foot, shorter than 5 foot tall, got cushions stacked in the seat that are, pulling 48s and 52s and everything behind it, and and they're making it happen, but they also got a why behind them because they got kids at home and they want a standard of living to be able to put those kids through school or whatever it is. And so this is the sacrifice that they're willing to make for it. There's not a lot of professions in this country that somebody can get into as quick as this and make as much as trucking will do for a person. It will open some doors if a person will give it the opportunity.
100%. I definitely agree with that. Shout out to my boy Jabane Green right here. I left this comment on the screen. This is a question for you, Robert. He says, Robert, do you teach creative financing? I'm trying to add more rentals.
Um, yes and no. It's one of those things where uh, here's the thing that changes because I bought my first rental 22 years ago. Okay. Real estate doesn't change, only financing does. And the big change that happened came in 2008 when the laws changed having to do with Homeland Security and this and that and everything. And so, what I have done with people that I've mentored is given them suggestions on far as approaching people and saying, "Hey, what do you think about us doing this, or what do you think about us, doing that?" Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. The one of the last people that I mentored, his name is Jared, young guy, 26. He's already got a bunch of money in the stock market and added three rentals within 90 days and everything. And I think he ended up saving like 70,000 from some things that I told him to do as and try as far as his negotiating goes and everything like that. But he would almost be somebody like you coming to me and saying, "Help me to become more wealthier." There's not a lot I can teach you because you already understand and you got the mindset. You already know. And basically, this ain't rocket science. I assure you, folks, if I can do it, anybody can. The thing about it is that you have to make more money come in, and then we need to invest it. Not so much as save it, but invest it, and then have less going out, and then that gap is going to start getting wider. But when you first start, it's going to be slow. But 5 to 7 years is when it's really going. It's going to actually catch the second gear, and you're going to go. It will get much faster after that.
100%. That compound interest is definitely a
Yes,
beautiful
yes,
thing over
yes.
time. And I also want to say this: if you are a W 2 employee, I would say that having a 401k, some type of retirement account, Roth IRA, whatever it is that you have for your vehicle in terms of retirement, I think that's probably the easiest investment that you can make to go ahead and start your investing career. It particularly if your company offers a match, right? I mean, you want to take advantage of that. It's obviously free money. So if you're working for a company that have a 401k retirement, definitely you should be contributing whatever that amount is for the company match. I mean, that's just free money for you. And then, but outside of your retirement account, I would also say have another way where you're generating revenue, right? You want to be able to get as much as you can. We're living in definitely some bad economic times right now. We see what the housing market looks like. We see the mortgage rate, excuse me, has increased over the last year or so. This what 6, 7, 8% has been extremely high. The housing prices have increased, and so the economy is not in the best shape right now. So any way that you can make some additional streams of income, some people right now watching this video or this live stream have hobbies that they can be monetizing right now, and they're just sitting on them, right? Getting on YouTube, creating a YouTube channel is it's work. I'm not gonna say it's easy. It's definitely work. You definitely have to be consistent if you want to grow ultimately. But a YouTube channel, if you're able to get it to a certain point, you definitely can start making money that way. And there are so many other ways. Robert, I know you have a YouTube channel as well. It's called Hustle Nation. And I'm going to put the link to your channel in the description at the end of this live stream so people can check that out. But on your channel, you talk about a plethora of different ways to make more money. And I definitely encourage you guys to check his channel out because he got some good ideas over there for people to make extra money. I know you also have a dump business where you dump garbage and trash and different things like that. You just got your hands in all sorts of things that produces additional income. And I think things like that, particularly now, this day and age, I just think we need to be able to find more ways than just having a job to make extra income. Um, how you feel about that?
I totally agree. And here's the thing, folks, you got a smartphone right here and you want to become wealthy and you don't, it's because you made a choice not to do it. In this country right now, there is so much opportunity, and especially worldwide, to be able to do something and make a financial freedom and independence having to do with just having a smartphone in your hand. When we got kids that, are 11, 12, 13 years old that are getting paid six figures a month off of YouTube for advertising because they got this puppet show going on and stuff. The guys that drive the Lamborghinis in Pensacola. I mean, they're a little bit older than that and everything, but there's other kids. There is absolutely no reason for somebody, if they're born in this country, to be broke. We're all born broke, but if we die broke, it's truly a choice that has been made. There's so much opportunity out there and everything. There's a guy that's selling a course on Instagram, and if his numbers are correct, he's absolutely killing it. And what he does is he does gutter cleaning. He goes around and he knocks on the door. Hey man, you want me to clean your gutters? I clean the gutters for, like, I think 125 for single story and 200 for, two-story house and everything. That's something simple. I tell you, a hustle that I put out for free for people. Okay. What you do is you go around your neighborhood and you say, hey, look, for $7 or $10 every week, I'll come and I'll pull your trash can out to the street. And then within 24 hours of it getting emptied, I'll bring it back. And for an additional $5, if you want me to, I'll wash out your trash can. Okay. That's $40, 4 times, 4 weeks, average month that you would be making. Well, guess what? If you do that 10 times, that's what? $400 a month right there. Just 10 houses. Okay. I had like 90 people message me, say, hey man, tell me about that side hustle and everything. And I did. Not one of them took it up. And I can tell you why. The vast majority of them would not do it. Their ego, their pride. They don't want the neighbors to see me pulling that trash can out. And here's the most common. Oh, that would be a good side hustle for a kid. Well, why is it not a good side hustle for you at 50? I always see that you on, social media complaining about not having money to pay your bills and everything like that. Here's one that you can do and everything. But see, there's only two things that'll keep anybody from being successful in this country: ego and emotions. That's it. Regardless of what anybody else tells you, folks, those two things are the only things that'll keep you from being successful: your ego and your emotions. That person's pride was too much. They didn't want to be seen making that money. Mm-hmm. It don't matter to me. I'd hawk Girl Scout cookies if that's what it takes for me to pay my bills. I'll go door to door. It don't matter. Yeah. And I wouldn't call myself so much as an entrepreneur. I would say I'm an opportunist, because when there's opportunities, I see them, and sometimes they last for a long time, and sometimes it's just a one thing. I used to buy and sell motorcycles, and I shipped them all over the world and everything. The popularity started dying down, and then I got to a point where I hated motorcycles and I hated motorcycle people, and I really enjoy riding bikes. And so I quit that as a business, and then I got back to enjoying it as a recreation. And so the thing about it is that, like with the dump trailers, when the hurricane came, Sally and everything, I had one trailer, and within a couple months I had four, because all the roofing crews here and everything. And, I was making bank. And now all the roofs are done and everything. And so the demand's not real high, but I use those trailers whenever we're cleaning out one of the rental properties or something. And actually I got two of them on location right now, today, making money. And, see folks, I'm making money while I'm talking to you on this video right now. Right. Okay. It's a beautiful thing. Trust me on that. And so, it's hard to explain, but when I first got into it a couple of years ago, you could buy a brand new dump trailer for $8,500, and within 3 months, that dump trailer was paid for. And I actually sold that particular trailer for more than I paid for it, even after I used it for a year and a half. So that was almost like real estate in a certain regard, because I only had to purchase it one time and I continued to get paid with it. Right. Now I did have to replace a few of the tires that got nails in them and stuff like that. But otherwise, is virtually maintenance free.
Hmm.
So, the thing about it is that that would never happen had I never spent that money. That would never happen had I not gone to somebody and said, I got a trailer, man. I forgot what I was charging at the time when we started, 175 to drop it for 38 hours and then take it to the dump and whatever the dump fee was. But, I just opened my mouth,
Hmm.
and I have no problem getting up, going and asking somebody, you know, hey, I can do this for this, or, would you like to sell this, or would you like to sell, I bought a 3 bedroom, 1 bath house that was ready for somebody to move into it for $12,000 because I wrote them a letter,
Yeah.
you know, and it would have never happened had I not wrote that letter.
Right. You got to take action. And something else that I kind of heard while you were telling that some of those stories is you took risk,
Sure,
and there's definitely risk involved with any type of investing, with almost really anything. But since we're talking about investing, there is a certain level of risk involved, and without risk, there isn't any reward. So one of the things about one of the vehicles that I allocate some of my money towards is the stock market. And me and you have this conversation. For you, I know you invest in real estate, which is also a great vehicle to allocate your money to. But I like the stock market, and I do plan on getting into the real estate market as well, because I do think that's a safe investment, particularly for long term. Great way to make some passive income, but there are a lot of people who are a little apprehensive to get into the stock market. And I think getting into the stock market is really an easy way to learn about investing and to really understand um, what it's like to invest, right? There are a ton of videos on YouTube that will show you step by step how to invest, how to open a brokerage account, all of these different things. You just got to do the research. But to see your money grow over time with you only having to just put money into an asset, understanding that the market runs in cycles, understanding that there's going to be fluctuations in the market, there's going to be fluctuations in the price, there's going to go up and down. Once you understand the concept behind investing in the stock market, I think that will make you a little bit more comfortable, and you won't get necessarily scared or start panicking when you see the price come down on the asset. For investors that are smart investors, we look at price drops or red days as buying opportunities. We look at it like, okay, we need to buy more now. Let's get these assets at a discount. So once they do go up in value, now we start to profit. And that's how you have to look at it when it comes to investing. But again, you just got to get the knowledge, right? Once you get educated on investing in something like the stock market, there are, some solid investments, some solid things that you can invest in, like the S&P 500, for example. It's tried and true, right? It's not necessarily a gamble. If you invest in solid assets like that, I think in the long term you'll be good. But again, this isn't financial advice. Definitely do your own research and do your own due diligence. But I do think it's a safe way to go about it if you want to be a little bit, in my opinion, on the conservative side. Go ahead, Robert.
Well, before I move on, I wanted to say something about what you talked about with the 401k. If your company has a match and you're not at the very least matching that, you're a complete fool. Okay. If they
Mm-hmm.
say we're going to match up to 5%, you're not putting in 5% because that's free money. Okay. That's free money. And if you're not taking advantage of that, you need to just abandon all things. I'm here to tell you because, like you said, that right there is just free money. The thing about 401ks that I would suggest to anybody, as far as like the last company, I don't know if it was Cisco or if it was Cox Communications, but we had one of them that I could put in 18% of my pay. And it was going to be post tax. I think there was no tax, or it'd come off of my taxable income. Pardon me. And that's what I was doing. The thing that I recommend to everybody, though, is to look and see about the fees that you're getting charged with that 401k, because some of them, you know, can be a difference of a couple 100,000 once you get to the point of retiring and everything, and just 1% or 2% over here, handling fee and everything like that. So again, with what Anthony said, educate yourself. Don't be ignorant. Figure out and see what it is. That 5% the company match, that's a no-brainer. Do it regardless. Okay, regardless of what fees you get charged for them to manage your account. But then on the flip side, don't ever want to be in a situation where if something happens and then if the company goes or something like that, and then all the money's gone, what do we do now? And I mean, Anthony, I get people all the time. Like last week, I had a lady call me. She said, I was a nurse for 35 years and I get 1,400 a month from Social Security. I need a place to live for 600 a month. You can't get a garden shed for 600 a month. Right. And then it was all I could do to bite my tongue and not say, how are you an LPN for 35 years and you don't have any kind of retirement and all you're relying on is, 1,400 a month? I don't know the circumstances and it's not my job. Okay. But man, it is tough when I sit there and I hear that and everything, because and don't quote me on this, but if I'm not mistaken, the very most you're going to be able to collect from Social Security, I think, is what, 24 or 2,800, and that's it.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this, okay? If you get 2,800 a month, okay, then guess what? You got to pay taxes on that, folks. So now we're probably about 2,200. So that's about 25,000 a year. What kind of life do you think you're going to have on 25,000 a year? Is that a good, 150? Are we going to go to Cigars in Destin? No. Are we going to go to DeFene's in Mobile? No. You're going to go to Whataburger for 25,000 and only one night a week. Okay. Right. And nobody thinks about that. Now, let me throw this into you. What do you think about the cost of nursing homes when you get to 75 or 80? A decent place here in Pensacola is $6,000. By the time I'm ready at 52, 20 years from now, that's probably going to be $9,000. You know what that comes to? That's $130,000 post-tax that I have to have coming in to go to a decent nursing home. Nobody wants to think about those things. Nobody wants to stop spending the money on the new hunting rifle, on the new stereo, on the new whatever, the new kitchen and, the hot tub, get the pool in the backyard and everything like that. And it's like one of the things I did for myself personally is I'm real bad about not buying clothes, as far as I wear them till they got holes in them and everything and looking bad and whatnot. And so I started buying new clothes, but I also made myself a promise is that I'm going to buy 2 of each. And one of them is going to go to the team challenge. Okay. Because what I don't need to do is start getting buck wild with buying new stuff. Okay. And if I'm doing it like that, just the same as, I saw something earlier today that, if you're going to go out and buy, new patio furniture, then take that same amount and put it into an investment, so that we kind of regulate ourselves on how much money is that we're spending and everything, because and I'm guilty of it. As soon as I get a large chunk of money and everything, I'm thinking about a new Harley. I really want a 94 or 96 Fleetwood, sunroof, triple black interior. I mean, I know the car that I'm looking for when I find it. Okay.
Right.
But the thing is that, I start, my mind tells me, hey, you got a lot of money. You can go and spend some and everything like that. And that's that lifestyle creep right there, man. That's what gets us. And like I said, I'm still at a point where I'm building and I need to stay here. It's kind of like that old analogy, a piece of fruit. As long as we stay green, we'll never get ripe, because right after being ripe is you're going to be rotten. So I need to stay green with my investing and keep on doing it.
All right. Before we move on, I want to touch on Zach's question. Zach, appreciate you for joining the chat. He said, are those doors sole proprietorship, LLC, or is it through a trust? I'm just joined, so this may have already been addressed. I think he's talking about their properties.
Sure. The thing about it is that as far as mine, some of them are in an LLC and some of them are in a personal name. I would highly suggest talking with an attorney that specializes in trust and also LLCs, depending on the state that you live in, because what you don't want to happen is that if you ever die, that all of a sudden the state or the government is going to get a large chunk of that because you didn't make some preparation for it to go to your heirs or whoever you want to without getting the estate tax. Because basically when when you die, almost 50% of whatever it is that you have left over, if it's not done properly, gets taxed. So I mean,
Mhm.
that the wealth game, it's almost twofold, because the easiest thing a person will ever do is they'll make money. Okay, you, me, everybody can make money. You can go to your neighbor's house, rake the leaves, and you just made money. Okay, it was real easy. All right. The hardest thing you'll ever do is to hold on to that money and then start making it work for you. Okay. And that's where, like, what you talk about is as far as getting educated. And I tell everybody, I said, because I was talking with a friend of mine the other day, and I said, you need to go talk to 3 financial planners, but don't go in there and talk to them on their dime. Ask them and say, how much is an hour of your time? 250, 350, 500, $100, whatever it is. You pay that money and go and talk to them and see what they have to say. And the reason I say do 3 people with that is that with people, you'll start seeing reoccurring themes. Okay. And those are the things that I pick up on. Nothing against anybody in the financial planning business. They're all salesmen. Okay.
Right.
They get paid a commission on as soon as you hand them the check, whether they lose it all or not. Okay. And a lot of those companies that, have an ETF or a mutual fund, they run specials and they're like, hey man, for every share that you sell, it's not $5 now, you get $10 or $20. So guess what they're going to be pushing as soon as you walk in the door? Hey, Joe. Hey, Anthony. I got this, man. This thing is great, bud. Let me tell you about it. Okay.
That's right.
I'm not making them out to be in a bad light. That's just what the business is. Okay. There's not a financial planner that I have met yet that says, hey, look, you give me your money, and if we do bad, I'm going to do bad. If you do good, then I'm going to do good. They just don't do that. Okay. They get a flat fee, and that's what they get. So, um, that's that education process that you're talking about, as far as, make sure you know what you're getting into and everything. And that's where a mentorship comes in tremendously, especially with dealing with like real estate. That's somebody that can help you run numbers and also basically push you and keep you accountable in a situation, in the sense that, what do you think that we should do? Or, would you buy this house? And if yes, why? And if no, why? Um, and a lot of times the situation is, and unfortunately, and again, this goes back to that ego or the emotion thing, is that people's fear of failure will keep them stuck living in a comfortable hell longer than anything else will. Okay. It's like people go through a breakup and then they're afraid to get in a relationship again. Me, I'm afraid not to love again, because it's a wonderful feeling. Okay. Me, I'll take the risk and I'll look at the investment and everything. And if it looks, feasible, I'll pull the trigger and do it, because my fear of losing opportunity is greater than my fear of losing the money. I can always make money. Okay. I'll lose everything, and you're going to see me on the side of the road walking to the plasma clinic. I'm going to get some money. I'm going to get back in the game, and I'm going to do something. Okay.
Right.
I might have to buy a rake and start raking yards, and then I'll buy, a push mower, and, but come back and see me in 9 months. I'm going to have a full, landscape and lawn maintenance thing going on and everything, but I will get back in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And people aren't willing to take that risk because they're worried about losing that $50 or that $100 or that 5,000 and everything. And again, I'm not saying that, don't go to Biloxi and play roulette. Okay. But just as you said, the S&P 500, the thing that came to mind when you were talking is Vanguard. I mean, how can you go wrong with doing something with Vanguard? You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, it's
Right.
like, and and I do buy stock. I buy a Southern Company, and because they've been paying a dividend since 1952, it's a conservative, and generally speaking, your utilities aren't volatile, but they have a good dividend that they pay on a consistent basis.
Mm-hmm.
And if I was your age and had your brains and everything, I would have done much more with mutual funds and everything, because I love the stock market. It's just that with me being later in life and everything and getting to the point where I want to be at, I've got to have a vehicle that's going to accelerate much quicker. And that's what real estate does for me, as opposed to, I got a boatload of people that, have net worths well over $10 million, and that are getting anywhere from, 5 to 20,000 a month in dividend checks and everything like that. And they've done well. It's just that they started much earlier than I did, and they get that compound interest, just like what you're talking about, because they just let those dividends kept rolling over.
Yeah. And I think that's a good point you bring up when you talk about time in the market. The earlier you start, the better, because time is on your side. And that's one of the things that I try to communicate to, my daughters, for example. Look, start investing early. You're, between the ages of 19 and 21, if you start now, by the time you reach my age, 20 years from now, you'll be financially free, right?
Oh, yeah.
The more time you have in the market, the better for you. So the younger you are, you should go ahead and take action as early as possible, because like you said, the older you get, when you try to do these things, now you have to be more aggressive, you have to
Yes.
invest more, you have to do certain things now if you want to get to that retirement point, that if you had started earlier you wouldn't have had to do those things. So it's definitely important to start as soon as possible. So if you're a young person listening to this right now, definitely start doing your research on investing. Don't worry about playing all the video games and things of that nature, wasting all your time doing that. Go ahead and start your investing journey as early as possible. And you won't have to be like some of the old people that you probably see around working in some of these different places. And you look at them and you say, man, I don't want to be like that when I get to that age. No judgment, no disrespect to anybody. But life is all about decisions. Life comes down to choices, right? And so we all have to hold ourselves accountable for where we are, right? Wherever you are right now in life, it's because of the decisions that you've made up until this point. And so you have to take a step back and look at it and say, man, what type of decisions have I made to get in this financial position? What decisions did I make to get in this relationship? And every aspect of your life, you can look at it and say, it was a decision that was made to get me here, right? And
Mm-hmm.
in order to get to a different place, we got to make better decisions.
No, I totally agree. And before I forget, that guy Zach right there, he was asking about house hacking, like buying a duplex and living on one side. As long as the numbers work, Zach, I highly recommend it, because the great thing with doing that in that particular situation is, like in the state of Florida, if you buy it and it's your primary residence, then you're going to get a cheaper mortgage rate. You're also going to be able to homestead the property, so your taxes are going to be less. Okay. My suggestion would be is hold on to it for a year or two, and then find another property to buy and move out. And that way you can keep on doing it and keep getting that lower interest rate. And, as long as it's a primary residence for a year or 2 years, I think they call it a seasoning period, but you got to be in it for that before you can, basically move on and everything. And I've known people that have put together a portfolio of like 8 to 12 properties. They've done that in a 10-year time period, 15-year time period, and now work is an option. And like those older people you're talking about, or the people that we see, that are, we'll just say greeters, or doing some type of menial task and everything. Now, if they're out there because they want to be working, they want to be active and just make a little extra cheese, and they don't have to, that's fantastic, because guess what? They made a choice. Okay. That's what this whole game is about, is it's choices. When you wake up, what do you want to do? Where do you want to eat? How soon do you want to pay your bills? And it's like, I had a lady call me and said she's got 3 kids. And Anthony, she said, look, and the place she was going to rent was $1,600 a month. And she was like, well, I don't have the $3,200 it would be required to move in and everything. And, she works at Navy Federal, makes good money. And I just happened, before I could keep my mouth shut, I said, what's the situation? She said, well, I was living in a house that my father owned, and I was putting money into it, and then the price got changed. This happened and that happened, and now he's going to sell the house, and I can't get the house. And her words to me is, I'm going to be moving into a hotel. And I said, hon, that's going to cost you about $475 a week. She said, you're right. And I said, you're never going to get out of that place. You will be there for years. And
Right.
She got quiet and she said, you know what? That's the same thing that the desk clerk said at the hotel. And I said, you're paying so much money right now. And because of her living paycheck to paycheck, okay, she doesn't have the option of having a stable home. And then she's got 3 kids as well. Okay. And I understand, whatever happened with the family and everything like that. But you know what? If I'm renting a place and the person all of a sudden pops up and says, hey, I'm going to sell it, you know what? It was my responsibility to have 5, 10,000, 15,000 in savings so that I can provide a stable environment for my children. That's an unspoken commitment if you bring a child into this world, in my opinion. Okay. And the thing about it is so many people don't look at it like that. They just like carte blanche, hey, we're just ripping and running, we're doing what we want to and everything. Oh, damn, what happened?
Right.
And all of a sudden life happens, okay? And guess what? It's gonna happen, okay?
Mhm.
If you make it your whole time and nothing does, God bless you. Count your blessings, you did good, okay? 9 times out of 10, it's gonna happen. Something's gonna happen. Them kids are gonna need braces. You're gonna fall, and I mean, if you fall and say like you're off and can't walk for 90 days, you're out of work for 90 days. You're in a situation. You probably got short-term disability. You got money and everything. We're gonna watch Anthony, with the clicker and watching YouTube videos in the living room and everything like that. You're not gonna be sweating it, okay? Virtually nobody's in that position, man. And that's the thing that I hate to see is because, and just like you said, just a few minor adjustments, okay, and a couple of years and everything like that. And now we got this thing to where we need to be at and everything. And now money's no longer a concern.
Mhm.
What if the landlord shows up and says, I'm selling the house? No big deal. I'll go find another one. I got the first month's rent. I got the last month's rent. And I got the deposit. We're good.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very few people are in that situation,
Mhm.
just the same as that lady that's been an LPN for 35 years and gets 1,400 a month and tries to make it on it.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
tough, man. That's
Yeah.
tough, and that's what people
Mhm.
have to look forward to if they don't start changing the way that they do things. I think that stocks are a wonderful thing to get involved with, especially at young age, because that is by far the only true passive income known to man.
Mhm.
Because the only action you ever take, Anthony, is clicking it and saying deposit and buy. That's
And
it.
and that's actually automated. I only have to
It-
do that, right?
See, see,
It's just set it and forget it. I got a certain amount of money that's allocated to go to those assets every month. I don't have to touch it every
right.
day.
And anybody that tells you that real estate is passive, they're lying. Okay, it's not like running a business, but once you get to a certain point, you have to treat it like a business because you're not the Red Cross. And I will tell this to everybody: if you can't evict a single mother with a baby on her hip on Christmas Day, you need to have a property manager because that same person that you cut that slack to is going to be the same person that's going to go through every bedroom and put an axe through each one of those walls. And the problem
Mhm.
is that people are, well, I really thought that they were going to do this and I thought they were going to do that and everything. And it just doesn't happen like that, man. In 22 years, I've never had anybody that I cut slack to come back and paid rent early and said, hey, this is because of it. I
Yeah.
will say this: my very best tenant, her name's Teresa, and she came to me and said, hey, look, I just got out of prison for trafficking cocaine. I got no credit and I got a pit bull and I need a place to live. And
Mhm.
she has been by far my best tenant in 22 years.
Wow. That's
Yeah. So
phenomenal.
I mean, she sent me a text message a couple months ago with a picture of her next to a 2018 Audi. She said, because of the things that you said, don't ever think that somebody doesn't pay attention. Robert, my credit's good. I was able to buy this car and I got money in the bank because of some of the things that you said.
Nice.
And so yeah, it does work if we work it.
Mhm.
But just as you say, Anthony, we have to put forth that action. It's just not going to be okay to have that money sitting in your wallet and not putting it into Morgan Stanley or E-Trade or Waterhouse or putting one of them online brokerages. If we ain't doing that, it ain't gonna happen.
That's right.
We can't wish dividends. We have to
Mhm.
buy stocks that pay them. That
Mhm.
requires action.
100%. Commando Spawn, I appreciate the super chat. He said I fell offset backing at my CDL program. You said something else. I really want my CDL so bad. Keep trying, buddy. Keep trying. There are a lot of people that have failed the test, on the first try, second try, and they just keep going, and then eventually they go ahead and pass that test. So
God's
don't
honest truth. I know somebody 8 times, took it 8 times. Guess what happened on the ninth?
pass.
Boom! There you have it.
Yeah, yeah. Just gotta keep trying. Don't be discouraged. You aren't the first person that have failed. Trust me. Go
The
ahead, Rob.
difference between success and failure is the road to success has shorter exits that are called failure, and you just get off on those before you hit the main drag on the road to success. That's
That's
it.
right.
Okay.
That's right.
Don't let your ego say, hey, I can't do this. Don't let them, that committee up here that says, oh, you can't do this, you can't handle it, you're not smart enough, you're too tall, you're too short, you're whatever. Don't listen to it.
Mhm.
Okay. Do not. And don't let your emotions get a hold of you. Just say, you know what? Hey, I'm just going to practice. I'm going to go and practice. And if you got to pay some money to some place to rent a truck in a parking lot and with a trailer, go and do that.
Mhm.
That's what I would be doing and everything. And, people are like, man, you're just crazy and everything. I know how to get things done.
Yeah.
That's my talent is I know how to get stuff done. And so, and as you can tell, I got no lack of talking. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, I think there's definitely a lesson to be learned in failing, right? I
Oh,
mean,
absolutely.
you should be able to take something away from, what you did wrong and then kind of go from there to hopefully correct those mistakes going forward. So failing isn't a bad thing. I think it's just the way you look at things, right? And again, that comes down to your philosophy on how you see things. But you definitely can learn something by your failures. One thing I wanted to get to is real estate. And out of all the things to invest in, Robert, what made you choose real estate in particular?
Um,
Investing.
I don't remember exactly. I'll tell you what happened with me is I was 26 years old. My mother came to me and my sister and said, I'm going to spend $500 on each of you for Christmas. I can give you cash. I can buy you something. I can give you a surprise, or I can buy you a mutual fund. And at the time, technology funds, you got to consider this as early 90s, technology funds were as wild as Bitcoin was 3 years ago. Okay. And so me and my sister said, hey, we'll take a mutual fund. And then we made a bet on who was going to have more money in their account by Christmas next year. And it was so aggressive in that day and time when I would actually, and back then it was Yahoo Finance. Okay. And the internet was slow, man. It took 20 minutes to upload a picture and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's like pulling teeth. But I remember waking up and that thing had moved 25 cents or it had gone up 50 cents or something like that. And so all of a sudden, Anthony, I learned about the magic of making money while you're sleeping. And that did something for me. And then by the time I was 30, I went in a partnership and sold some of I bought Home Depot and Southern Company. I sold both of them. And I think I ended up with like 15 or 18,000 in cash. And me and a partner, we bought two mobile homes and three houses. And two of those houses got foreclosed on because we went through the 100-year storm. At the corner of Brent and Palafox, there was 6 foot of water. That's why that
Right.
Burger King, they elevated it and everything, and we didn't have flood insurance on those houses. And so, I mean, I've had three houses go into foreclosure in the last 20 years. Okay.
Mm.
You're not going to find a whole lot of real estate investors that don't have a foreclosure story. Okay.
Right.
And I've had my credit down below 500. All right. And I've had to work it back up. And I learned how to, basically deal in cash the whole time and everything. And so, and these were all failures. And, when I had a partner with those five properties, they claimed bankruptcy. And so one of the houses, the institution, they came back to sue me and said, because what was owed on the property and what it sold for, the difference was 17,000. And so they came to me and said, hey, look, we want our money. And I went and talked to some attorneys and everything, and they're like, the judge is going to make you sell all your toys, all your, the hard.
I think Robert froze up for a minute. We'll see if he can get back in. Look like probably a bad connection on his end. Appreciate you guys for joining the chat. We got 32 people in the building
Everything.
right now. Let's see. All right, we'll see if we can get back on. We got 32 people in here right now, man. 28. Do me a favor, hit that like button. If you hadn't hit that like button for me, go ahead and do that. I appreciate you guys for checking in. We'll get to that question, Zach, as soon as he get back on here. We'll touch on that. Let me see if I got any more questions in here. Trucker for Life, I appreciate you for joining. See what else we got. See what I missed. I think that's everybody.
Because everybody needs a place to stay. Okay. Here's what's non negotiable in this country: food, clothing, and shelter. You've got to have those. Okay. And the thing about it is that, when times are good, people want to move in my properties, and when times are bad, people search out my properties because they're lower. It's not like over there by Cordova Mall where a 3.2 is rocking at 2,500. They can come over here to my side, and they can fit the whole family in something for 13 to 1,400 if they've had to take a pay cut or different jobs or something of that nature and everything. So that's where my mentality has always been at, is that I don't ever try to get myself into a situation that it's like you're going to see a lot of people with Airbnbs because they're clamping that stuff down. Okay. And they're probably going to do away with it in Pensacola. They're already talking about it and trying to pass laws and everything. So there's a lot of people that bought, and they bought it with numbers that, hey, it's got to cash flow, or it's got to be a short-term rental for it to cash flow. Okay. Well, guess what? If they can't use it for a short-term rental, they're going to be losing money. So one or two things: either they're going to have to keep on making the difference up every month on that place, or they're going to let it go back and it's going to be foreclosed on. And that's where knowing your numbers and knowing the market is extremely crucial right there. And I'm not a big fan. I'm more on the side of Dave Ramsey, because I am opposed to debt. And I do have properties that do have mortgages on them and everything. Um, but I really like being able to pay cash for something that's in bad shape. We go in and fix it up, and then rent it out, but don't take any debt on it.
Mhm. All right. Zach got a question here. He says, "Do you have a formula that you use to calculate if a property is going to cash flow? And also, do you buy properties in bad neighborhoods, or does it matter?"
My thing has to do more with, as far as not so much as the neighborhoods, but more in the sense of, do the numbers make sense? You can buy a great house in a bad location and you're going to have problems, and you can buy a bad house in a great location and it's going to be wonderful. Okay. So it's tough to say, is any one area or demographic going to be any better than the other? If you got an area that's we'll just say like close to a bus station where you got a lot of people walking, chances are you're going to have some extra problems because of that and everything. If there's a lot of transient in the area and people walking, a lot of foot traffic and everything like that. And as far as my formula goes, at the very minimum, I need that property to what I call net. Okay, that's after taxes taken out. You got to figure that a roof is going to cost you $150 a month. A water heater costs you about $10 a month. Heat and AC is going to cost you about $50 a month. Once you take all of that, the money that you have left over, we call that the net. And the net minimum needs to be about $300 per door. It can go down a little bit if it's a multifamily unit, because like the roof, is not going to be three separate roofs. It's one roof that's covering everybody. So it's not going to be like, 150 a month for each one of those doors. It'll be a little bit cheaper. And so I don't know if that actually answers the question.
Zach, let me know if that answers your question. You can respond on that. Corey B, appreciate you for joining the chat. All right, Mr. Robinson, I think we dropped a lot of good information. I think we added a lot of value. We've been on now about an hour and 14 minutes. We got 24 people in here right now. I appreciate you guys for checking in. I think I want to, before we get out of here, for anybody that's interested in getting into the real estate market as an investor, what are some of the things that they can do to get in, or what are some of the best ways to get in? I know, there are things out there like Facebook groups. You got meetups depending on the city that you're in. It's just a lot of different things, a lot of different ways that you can enter into the real estate game, just to find out a lot of information about it. You obviously got YouTube, but what are some things that you can do to enter the real estate market?
Fantastic question. First thing that I would do if you're looking to possibly get in is get your credit right. Get it to where it's 700 or better, because, and yes, you can buy a house with 600, okay, but you're not going to get a good rate. And when you buy an investment property, you pay a much higher rate, okay? And that's the one thing that a lot of people don't tell you. The other thing is that I would suggest, basically looking at, A plus property is going to be the best, a D is going to be the worst. I'd be looking at C to C plus properties. The reason for that is that those properties are always in demand no matter what the economy is doing, going up or down. Okay. People talk about Section 8, about HUD housing and everything. That's a wonderful angle to start going with and everything. And, start asking yourself, because I'm real big on what I call exit strategies. Okay. If it's not going to work like this, is it going to work like that? Will it work like this? Okay. So if you get the property and we'll just say, you put it out there for $1,600 a month and it's not going to cash flow, but then you have somebody that comes along that's got a voucher that's, Section 8, and they said, hey, I got, a voucher for 1,500. Will you still make money? Will it be profitable for you? If the answer is yes, then hey, that's great. Okay. Because now we've got this other exit strategy. So we got A and now we got B. Well, is it in a neighborhood that we could do a short-term rental? Now we got C, and so it keeps on going and everything like that, because what's bad is that if we are only locked into being able to do business one way and that way starts to fail, then you're out of business.
Right.
Okay. And so that's my big thing is make sure that it's versatile to where it's got different avenues that we can go with it and everything like that. So get your credit right first. Okay. Second thing, find somebody that you want to trade places with that's already got properties, that's been in the game for a while and everything like that. Find out what it is that they do, even if you got to, because I met a guy that's got a huge podcast 2 weeks ago, and I asked him, I said, let me take you to lunch and whatever you want to, whatever it costs for me to, I'll pay you for your time. And he said, well, normally I consult for 300. I said, how do you want payment? Okay. And I didn't want him to tell me anything about my YouTube channel. I just wanted to go and have lunch with him and network. I didn't want to pick his brain for business or anything. We ended up, I paid for lunch, and he said, oh man, don't worry about, it's not a money thing, because he thought I was looking to grow my channel and everything. I just wanted the networking. And that's why I say always be willing to pay for somebody's time and make that offer, because then it shows respect and what you have is valuable. And I want that. They're much more inclined to give you the time. The other thing is, Google local real estate investor meetup groups, your town, whatever it is, Tucson, Pensacola, Fort Walton, Rome, Georgia, wherever, and then start showing up at those meetings and be vocal, talk, okay, and tell those people, say, hey, look, I'm thinking about getting in the game. I want to hear the good and the bad and the ugly. I want to know what it's going to take for me to start doing this and everything. There's huge followings on Instagram with people that, have got portfolios from, 2 properties up to, 10,000 single family homes. And if I'm not mistaken, I want to say there's a guy in California that actually owns 10,000 homes
Wow.
by himself. And it's not in an LLC. It's just in his name personally. And somebody told me that. I don't know if it's true or not, but regardless, those are the things that I would start doing first. And what I would do is I would start running numbers. And, so like if you find a 3-bedroom, 1-bath, in Brownsville, and you want to go ahead and buy it, it's 100,000 and it's going to rent for 1,400. Well, then, figure out, okay, well, what's my payment? What's my insurance and everything? Is this property going to cash flow? And once you know how to do that, then it becomes a whole lot easier. The problem is that I have people that approach me all the time and say, do you think this is a good deal? It doesn't matter what I think. It only matters what you think. What's a good deal to you, Anthony, might not be a good deal to me. Okay.
Right.
And that old biblical story about if I give you a fish, you eat for a day, but if I teach you how to fish, you can eat for the rest of your life. And so I need for those people to know how to do the numbers themselves so that they can analyze that deal on their own, and people have, and you're going to do a bad deal, folks. I guarantee it. Okay. If you do this for any length of time, you're going to do a bad deal. Okay. And you're going to lose money at some point. All right. Fail. Get it out. Hopefully your first deal will be a complete failure, and then you can move on to the winners for the rest of your life. It's going to happen. Okay. But don't sit on the sideline because of it. Don't sit on the sideline because I said it was, I've got some lemons that I have purchased, that had more damage than what I anticipated. They're hard to rent. The list keeps going on and on and on, but I make money, so I mean, I keep rolling with it, so to speak, and everything. And those are the things that, and I would also recommend finding a realtor that will work with investors, and I would set a deadline on when to get a property. And what I mean by that is if January 1st you're looking to get into it, make that goal that by July 1st I'll have a property, and then just start making offers, and make 5 offers every week or 10 offers until something hits and sticks, and go with it. And if you make an offer and you're not embarrassed by your offer, you offered too much.
Hmm. Yep. That's one of the things that we say a lot in the wholesale game. If you're not embarrassed by the offer, then you offer too much.
Yeah.
So
And folks, I'll tell you this right now. God gave you one mouth and two ears because he wants you to do twice as much of one thing and half as much of the other. So, hey, are you interested in selling this house? Yes. Tell me about it. Shut up. Stop. Don't say another word. Let that person just run out of gas and then look at you and then say something and ask them another question. Keep them talking. It's unfortunate, but if you're in this business, we all like to talk and everything like that, and that's the worst thing we can do with a customer.
100%. Yeah. Okay, so we got how to get into the real estate game. Now, let's talk about a little bit before we get out of here on how to purchase some of these properties. Obviously, a lot of people don't have the capital to pay cash for some of these investment properties. So, what are some ways that we can go about purchasing? I know we got HELOCs, right? Home equity line of credit, possibly, hard money, possibly, other investors, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'll let you talk about some.
Sure. This is where the networking comes in on this. And these real estate meetup groups, you're going to find people there that are walking around that have piles full of cash, okay? And they're looking to put it into a deal. And I know this sounds crazy, but if you've got the right deal, the money will come to you. Just off of Facebook, I put a deal out there, or I put a scenario out there, and I had a guy that I have no idea why he and I were friends, Anthony. And he said, I might be interested in that. And I was like, okay. And I think I was looking for a loan of 80,000 for, 10 years on a house that appraised for 125. And this is what we call private money. And he went and looked at the house less than 5 minutes. He said, okay, I'll do it. This was a private investor. He's getting 8% on his money for 10 years. And, we haven't done a deal since then, but there's been a number of times that it's come up that there's been possibilities for us to do some things and whatnot. You never know where that's going to come from. Okay. The thing that I would suggest to anybody is if you want to get into the real estate game, go ahead and get some business cards printed up and says, Joe Smith, Anthony Crosby, real estate investor, and a phone number. Okay. And you pass that card out to every place. Matter of fact, you go ahead and buy 10,000 of them and you make your goal to get rid of them by the end of the year. Okay. And any place you go, Circle K, Tom Thumb, Lowe's, Home Depot, you put that card in front of whoever's working there and say, hey, if you know anybody looking to sell a house, I'm your guy. Okay. And if it happens for you, okay, if it happens for you and you end up closing, you go back and pay that person, pay them good. The last person that I did that with, they spent 7 minutes of their life and I paid them $500 finder's fee. And you know as well as I do, not every wholesale deal do you make $500 on. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, guess what? I've got a bird dog for the rest of my life. They send me stuff all the time. Okay. I haven't done a deal since then with anything they sent me, but I've got a bird dog for the rest of my life. And they were almost in tears because they didn't think they were getting anything. They just thought they were being nice to me.
Yeah.
So if anybody's helping you do better, make sure that you reward them for helping you get to that point. Okay. And that way you've got basically a customer for life on that. The other thing is that there are what we call DSCR loans. They're called debt service coverage ratio. All right. And most of these are going to be 70% or 80% loan to value, which means if the property is worth 100,000 or it's got a $100,000 price tag, they'll give you 80 grand on it. And you're going to pay all the rest of the money out of your pocket. Okay. Now, these loans are going to be a little bit higher on the interest rate than if it was a personal house. And the reason for that is that they're going to run a formula and make sure that with the rent that's going to happen for, we'll say it's a 3-bedroom, 1 bath at 100,000, that property is going to rent for, we'll say 1,400 a month. They'll figure out, because I think the loan on that's going to be right at about 750, 800 a month. Well, there's enough money so it covers it. Okay, it will service the debt, and that's why they mean debt service coverage ratio. It makes it so. Those are loans that you have options on. Okay, they're a little bit more difficult. They require you to jump through some hoops and everything, and so you're going to have to be prepared once you want to move forward on that. Um, the other thing that you can do is find some people that are looking to go into something. And if you got, 10, 15,000, because you're going to have to get some money together. Okay. That's
Yeah.
all there is to it, folks. This thing about, oh, you're going to be able to buy real estate, no money down, no money out of your pocket. It ain't happened to me yet in 22 years.
You got
Okay.
to have some skin in the game.
You are right about that. Come on now, that word will preach. So the thing is that these gurus will tell you this is the way that it can be done, and I'm like, okay, well, you come to Pensacola and show me how to do it, and I'll give you 50,000 cash right now. And I ain't had
Yeah.
one of them take me up on that offer yet. Okay, so the problem is that yes, you're going to have some skin in the game. Now, my thing has always been is that early on, before I even got into investing, if I bought anything, I always bought it at a real good deal where it had equity. If it was a motorcycle or something, I always bought way below retail because I had an exit strategy. If I ever had to sell it, I needed to be able to make money. Now, as things went on, I started working more and taking overtime weekends and stuff like that, and then got side hustles with the handyman business and everything to generate more cash flow. And then I got a little bit of a nut, and then I moved forward and started buying rental properties and everything, 20 something years ago. And so once you start putting this energy out to the universe, it's going to come back to you.
That's right.
Okay. And I know it sounds hokey, but trust me on this, folks. You start putting that business card out, Anthony Crosby, I buy houses, real estate investor with the phone number. Eventually, that thing's going to start ringing, and you have no idea what's going to happen on the end of that line. But I assure you of this: remember, nobody's going to remember what you did, but they will always remember how you made them feel. Okay.
Yeah.
And a lot of times these people are calling in bad situations, distress, families fighting. It's about to be sold for back taxes in a couple of weeks, whatever the case may be. But make sure that you treat them to where nobody's got a bad taste in their mouth. That's a struggle for me because I'm very short. I'm straight, black and white. Come on, let's get to it. Do you want to sell it or not? I got things to do.
Mm-hmm.
And the best deals that I've gotten is when I've said, tell me about it. And I
Yeah.
shut up.
Yeah.
And I shut up. So
Mm-hmm.
those are the things that I would really recommend, and again, putting that out to the universe. I'm a real estate investor, and the cheapest way, um, with any type of skill that you want to learn, start putting some time and effort, 15, 30 minutes a day into negotiating, learning about selling, and then learning about wholesaling, because wholesaling by far is the cheapest way to start making money having to do with real estate. For less than a couple $100, you can start getting into doing it and everything. And, and I've known people like I said, that house that I bought for 12,000, I did that on a yellow piece of paper, and my handwriting's atrocious and everything. And, that house appraised 6 months ago for $100,000,
Mm.
and I've owned it for 5 years. And it is, let me see, uh, I have collected $62,000 in rent since I've owned it.
Wow.
Yeah. So that all came from me just writing that letter,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I did everything I could to lose that deal.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I first talked to her, I swear she said it was like she wanted 28 or 30,000, but this is 5 years ago. So there's a lot of houses around at that price point. And I said, that's not really a great deal. And I didn't do anything with it, Anthony. And then I called her like 3 months later, and she said, now which person are you? So now I know some people are, calling her about it
Contact
and
her.
everything. Yeah. And so I asked her, and she said, well, I think I'll take 15,000 for it. And I did an inspection on it, found some pretty serious damage. Some floor joists were rotted, and I told her, I said, I can't give you 15, I'll give you 12. She said, I'll take it, and it was
Mm.
done. And so I've had to put central heating air in it because that was old, but just the indoor and outdoor unit got replaced, but it already had the ductwork and everything, and so that kind of stuff happens when you start putting it out to the universe, and that energy is going to come back.
Yeah.
I think that I don't know anything else that I would recommend to anybody as far as if they were just going to start getting into the business.
Yeah, I think you gave some great ways to get into it. I'm pretty sure people could take away some good options from that what you spoke of. But to your point, wholesaling definitely is a good entry point into real estate investing. I was doing it for a period of time. Actually got my first deal through wholesaling and made a $10,000 assignment
What?
off a
I can't
deal.
believe that.
Yeah, man, $10,000, and like you said, it's
How long
mark.
did from start to finish? How long did it take you to make 10 grand?
It took me actually. So this was a funny story. And this person reached out to me through Facebook, and what you was talking about
How
a
did
few
they know
minutes
to
ago
reach out to you?
because I put it out there.
What? Oh my God, that's unbelievable.
Yeah, marketing is key. Marketing is so important. So like you were just saying, you put it out there, let people know what you're doing so people can see. If you're just keeping it to yourself, nobody is going to reach out to you. Nobody has no idea what you're doing. So you have
Sure.
to definitely put it out there to the universe and let it do its thing. But yeah, this person reached out to me through Facebook, and actually did two deals with this individual through Facebook. One was a vacant land deal, and then the first one was a house deal. And made 10,000 on the first one and 2,500 on the second one.
Nice.
And like you said, I didn't invest hardly any of my money into that deal. Maybe a few $100 on signs and then system I was using at the time to help me find certain properties, apps and things of that nature. It was about a couple $100 that I had to spend on my own money. So that's a pretty good ROI in my opinion when you
Boom.
look
There
at
you
what
have
I
it. I love
invested.
that. I
Yeah,
love that.
when you look at the amount of money I invested, obviously I invested time, to find a property, to market it, and things of that nature. It does take work wholesaling. I'm not going to say wholesaling is easy. It does take some work. It does take effort. There's a lot of competition right now. When you look at wholesaling, some people would probably say it's even saturated, but the reality is there are people still doing a ton of deals in the wholesaling game. So if you don't know what wholesaling is, I would definitely encourage you to go on YouTube, search wholesaling, and you'll
Um,
see what wholesaling is all about. You can make
sure.
some really good money in wholesaling without having to put a lot of your money up. And like Robert said, it's a good way to build relationships because when you're wholesaling, a lot of times you can joint venture with people. Maybe you have a good deal, but you don't have an investor to off that deal to. Well, guess what? If you joint venture with somebody, they may have a large, what we call buyers list. It's just a
Sure.
list of investors, cash buyers that have the money to purchase that deal. You guys can come together in a cohesive way collectively and make that deal happen. So it's different ways that you could go about it. Again, it comes down to research, but wholesaling is definitely a great way to get in the investing game when it comes to real estate. But I
Sure.
wanted to touch on Zach's question real quick. He said, "My last question, my fault." Hey, that's what we're here for. You don't have to apologize for asking questions. He said, "Is the economy good to buy property because of the current interest rate and everything?"
Zach, you're going to do fine. You ask questions, and I can assure you that's the key right there. You're not afraid to get up and ask those questions and everything. Here's the thing about it is that the economy does not affect whether I do a deal or not. What affects if I do a deal is the numbers. Okay, I'll pay 30% interest on a mortgage as long as the numbers work. And people are like, "What? 30%? That's crazy, man." But here's the thing is that if the numbers work and I can charge market rate on my rents and it cash flows and I make my money and everything, why wouldn't you pay 30%? You'd do it every day of the week. Okay.
Mhm.
That's the thing that people get hung up on is that they are always thinking about, well, what about the interest rate and everything? Okay. Here's the thing. If you buy right now, and we'll say the interest rate, you get 9% on a property. Okay. 2 years from now, properties go or interest rates go down to 5. What do? You refinance. Well, okay. What if they don't go? What if they go to 15%? Guess what? You got a great deal with a 9%,
Mhm.
interest rate. And so people get hung up on the rate, but the thing that you need to get hung up on is the cash flow. Is it a deal? And just because you've got an opportunity in front of you does not mean that it's a deal.
Right.
The numbers have got to work. One of the richest men in this country, his name's Tillman Fertitta. He owns the Nugget casinos and all kinds of restaurants and everything like that. What is his favorite saying? Know your numbers. Numbers are what makes a difference, because anything that can be measured can be tracked and qualified, and numbers are the only thing that you can actually measure, so that we can track it and follow it and everything like that. You know, numbers have no emotions.
Right.
The numbers don't lie.
Yep.
If you deliver 80 cases today and then the next day you deliver 120, we got a 40 case spread. It wasn't that, well, Anthony was, he must have had shorts on. He's able to move quicker or anything like that. You delivered 40 more cases. I don't know how you did it, but you did it. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
That can be measured right there. That's extremely critical. And unfortunately, once you get to a point where you got two, three, four properties, you really have to know where your numbers are at and everything, and keep track of all your expenses, because you might actually have a property that's not profitable.
Mhm.
It might look profitable to you, and because you're using, these loosey goosey accounting practices, as far as, I got one account, I got a debit card, and there's more money in it next month after people paid rent than the month before. Okay, well, maybe this house at 123 Elm Street ain't cash flowing like it should and everything, and then that becomes something that we need to get rid of because it's costing you money. It ain't making you money.
Mhm.
We got to know the numbers. The cash flow is the only thing that makes a difference. Interest rates don't affect me.
Mhm.
you know
Right.
I figure those in when I analyze a deal. If it works, great. If not, we're moving on.
Mhm. Just to go back to your question that you asked me, how long did it take me to get that deal? So, but from the time I put it on Facebook to market it, basically letting people know what I do. Look, hey, I partner with people to purchase homes, whatever your pitch is to get somebody that may have a property that they want to sell. Um, they reached out to me, and I think after I posted it on Facebook, it only took about a week or so to get somebody to reach out to me. But it took about a month and a half to actually close on the deal. Part of the reason was two people ended up being on the deed. The person that was originally trying to sell the property didn't realize that he still had his uncle a part of the deed until we went into title searches and things of that nature. And then the uncle didn't live here. The uncle actually lived in Hawaii. So it took quite a bit of time to get the uncle to agree to want to sell the property. So it was just that right there was a matter of just having patience. But eventually it all worked out and I did that deal. It probably took about maybe, like I said, a month and a half, 2 months for that person to come back to me and say, hey, okay, we ready to go now. And we end up getting it done.
So at 6 weeks, and you made $12,000, so you made 2,000 a week. How
Yeah,
much actual time did you spend each week doing the marketing, talking to people, and everything? Did you spend 80 hours
not at
every
all.
week? No,
Nowhere
no.
near it.
Okay. So how many hours did you spend?
I probably spent about maybe 5 hours,
Okay,
10
so
hours
it's
tops.
so you made that's about $400 an hour.
Yeah.
That's what you made, was $400 an hour. Have you
Yeah.
ever made that kind of money working for any food company? No, you have not. Thank you very
No.
much, sir. All right, that's real estate for you, folks. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
make the rules, but I got to play by them, and there's money to be made.
Yeah, yeah, man. It was nice. It was nice. Uh, but yeah, man. So I think we touched on a lot, Robert, and people will be able to come back and watch this on the replay. We still have about 24 people here watching. I appreciate everybody for joining today, Robert. I definitely appreciate your time and be able to come on and add value to the people. It's always, great to communicate with you, whether it's in person or through, messenger or text. And it's I'm real glad that we had the opportunity to communicate and stay in touch with one another. You
Oh,
know,
it's definitely been a God thing, man. I benefit probably a whole lot more from what you do than what I do, that you benefit, because, I constantly see you hammering it and everything like that. And I'm like, man, that dude's consistent,
yeah,
and that's inspirational like that. And just as you had touched on, the YouTube grind, dude, it's a newfound respect for people that do that, especially the ones that, that's all they do for a living and everything,
mhm,
because it's a true grind. It really
yeah,
is. I ain't put a video out in 2 months, but you're steady
mhm,
every week. You're hitting it. You're being
yeah,
consistent with it and everything, man. my hat's off to you. I
I
mean,
appreciate
there's
that.
a reason why you're being successful.
Hmm.
Success leaves clues.
Right.
This ain't no rocket science. I mean, if Redneck Robert can figure some things out, it's like just pay attention. It leaves clues.
Yeah.
It's like there's breadcrumbs on this trail, and each one of them represents something: focus, discipline, consistency. It's all there, and you're doing it, and I appreciate that. I appreciate our relationship as well.
Yes, sir. Definitely. So I will put your information to your YouTube channel. Again, you guys definitely check that out. It's called Hustle Nation. A lot of good information over there. Again, like Robert mentioned earlier, he do offer that mentorship. If you guys want to check that out and reach out to him on that, I know I have a personal friend that was in the chat earlier. He probably is going to be either calling or texting me because he asked the question, and I think you answered it earlier. But about creative financing. So he'll probably be calling, asking me how to get in contact with you on something regarding real estate. But yeah, I appreciate it, Robert. We're gonna get ready
Absolutely.
to close this thing out, man. I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend. And to everybody here, listen, like I always tell you guys, when you join these lives, I really appreciate it. I really appreciate you guys liking the videos. It definitely helps the content get out to more people. The YouTube algorithm does its beautiful magic when you guys like and just interact on these videos. So I really appreciate you guys' support. All right.
Absolutely. God bless everybody. I appreciate your time and everything. And please, whatever you do, take action. Okay. Life is short, and, live life on your terms. Don't do anything to make it shorter. And get out there. God is not in the junk business. Okay. So none of you all are junk. And if he is the best thing that ever walked this face of this earth, then you need to follow in his footsteps and rise up from where you're at and start doing some things differently. That's been my motto, so to speak. I fail every day. However, I keep trying. I get up. I do it again.
There you go. All
So
right,
have
Robert,
a
I
wonderful
appreciate it.
evening.
Yes,
Thanks,
sir. You
man.
too. Thanks, man. Take care. Bye.